Of course, first, we would love to say thank you to the Rabibos, to Ben and Sandra Rabibo for opening up their beautiful home to us and for providing us such a beautiful just amount of food, of beverages. When it's being recorded, you got to be careful. And of just honestly being such a power for the community. It's really, really, really great. They are the best Rabibos that we know. So that's right. Come on, right? We know. Okay, good. So Baruch Hashem, this class is going to be something very different. I think than the most things that I've ever heard, most things that I've ever learned. What this is meant to be is going to be a series, we hope, of 6 classes. And inside this series, we're going to be going through this incredible book called The 6 Constant Mitzvot. So the 6 Constant Mitzvot, the Sheish Mitzvos Temidios. If you're wondering why does the book look like The Lord of the Rings, it's because they obviously stole it, like Jews do. That you have the ring and then just went and stuck something on top of it. That's really, very original. But hey, it definitely is an eye catcher. Not only is the cover really cool, but what's inside is really amazing. There's something called the Sheish Mitzvos Temidios, the 6 Constant Mitzvot. And believe it or not, there are actually 6 commandments that every Jew is supposed to do every single moment and every single second of their life. Now, that's an impossibility. It's an impossibility. You can't. At the same time, you're supposed to. So, like everything in this religion, what in the world is this talking about? So, number one, let's just call a spade a spade. Inside Judaism, we start with this very negative, sometimes kind of an outlook, where God is asking too much, and the amount that God asks is just so unbelievably hard. And everything's a test, everything is difficult. And because everything is a test, everything is difficult, I'll do what I can do, and it really feels as if we're schlepping along. The reason why I love this book is because it literally throws that myth right out the window. It brings a certain excitement to the reality that is our religion. It brings a certain want for responsibility that we may have never felt before. And in all honesty, it, for me at least, went and shed some light on many different misnomers in what it is that we thought the religion was trying to tell us. So, if you guys want to continue with this series, I do recommend, there's this website called Amazon. I don't know if I've ever heard of it. I'm pronouncing it right. Okay. And so on said website, they have this book. Do they have like a bookstore? Do they have like this kind of store down here in the valley?
Yes. House of David on Burbank and...
Yeah, I'm saying, but and do they sell books or they sell like...
No, they sell books.
Yeah, because there's a few up in the city, and I went to a few, and they literally, they sell old chauffeurs, and that's it. That and like, I don't know if you want like a mezuzah table. I don't know what that is, but they sell it. I'm just talking about like just straight up books. So the mitzvah store in the city has these. And if the House of David or what have you, fantastic, very, very worthwhile. Or by the time we're going to be trying to shoot to have this every other week over here in different houses. That's what we're hoping for. I've done this up in the city already, and Baruch Hashem, beautiful turnout. We had a different person host every single week, and it really became a fantastic competition of food off. Between everybody. The first week we started out with some sushi, and the next week it was like some sushi and lamb. And then the next week there was a pig on the table with an apple in his mouth. And things got a little bit nuts. It got a little bit crazy.
I toned it back down.
I told them, no, good. The first week, we don't want to over. Baruch Hashem, this is perfect because there's a lot of great food. A lot of great food the first week. I'm just going to, by the last week, it's going to be one of those Brazilian tables where the guy's walking with all the meats and shaving for everybody as we're doing that. And 21-year-old Scotch will be the youngest thing in the room. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. So that's what happens. So anybody who wants to throw their hat in the ring, we definitely can. We're going to be building this from week to week. So the homework is really going to be Bezat Hashem to get the book because I'm going to be really a lot inside the book. I'm going to be skipping though. Obviously, I can't read through each chapter. And so what it's going to be is that, like for example, next week is going to be the second of the 6 constant mitzvot, and anybody who has the book, not for next week, I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, is going to be the second of the 6 constant mitzvot, and anybody who has the book and they polished through the second. Now, the beauty of this book is that it's made into days. This is day 23, right? And then it's really only just a page or so till day 24. This is split into 50 days. Really, really not that many. And how many days are there between now and Yom Kippur? 50. Wow, good. No, I don't know. I made that up. That's a lie. There's probably less, but wouldn't that be cool if it was? But hey, it's something that you do a little bit each day, and it really brilliant ideas. So I'm going to be taking certain ideas and focus on them from the book. If you want to get the full experience, obviously the book is the way to go. I get no money from this. It's not like I get a percentage or anything. Just a percentage of your olam haba, right? I just get a percentage of your eternal existence. That's it, a little bit. So that's good. All right, let's do this. Starting from the intro over here in the book, he starts to talk about just this concept, really, of the 6 constant mitzvot. I've never read through the overview. I have no idea what it's talking about. So you don't have. I mean, if you want to be a better Jew than I am, that's fantastic. But you can start just from day one, just from the intro. And he starts to talk about this idea. There's something called 6 constant mitzvot. What are they? Sheish mitzvot temidios. 6 mitzvot that a person is supposed to do every single second of their life. They are, the first one is belief in God. Emunah b'Hashem, belief in God. The second is lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim. Do not have other gods. The third one is yichud Hashem, the oneness of God. Now, anybody who's keeping count, anybody should be looking around saying, didn't he just say the same thing 3 times? Yeah, I did, right? That's what it sounds like. Because if you believe in gods, then there's just God. So the second one says, don't have other gods. You just told me to believe in God. How are there other gods? But no, they're actually 2 separate things. When we get there, we'll see the differences. Then the third one is the oneness of God. Now, one second. If I believe in God, I don't have any other gods. Ipso facto, there's got to only be one God. No. Believe it or not, there's going to be something very specific about the third, the oneness of God as well. That's the 3rd constant mitzvah. The 4th constant mitzvah is written on the Rebibo wall back over there. Ahava. That one is the love of God. And we're going to talk about this concept. I mean, each one of these are so deep. How can you love God? Does anybody truly love God? Or do you love what God does for you? And so you're actually only really loving yourself. You're loving the things that God is doing for you. How do you love God in particular? And it's a commandment that we say 3 times a day. How do you love Him? Very, very weird thing. And we're commanded, by the way, how do you command love altogether? Anybody who commands anybody to love them, unless it's a medieval marriage, doesn't really sound like it makes any kind of sense. That's weird. And yet, we're commanded to do that. And then fear of God is going to be the 5th of the constant mitzvot, Yirat Hashem. And yeah, I mean, we all believe that we know the fear of God, but I'm telling you, the fear of God goes just so much deeper. And it's actually one of the most beautiful of all of them, because it's everything that you may have thought about fear is dispelled completely, and it's a brand new healthy outlook about fear of God. And then the 6th is lo taturu achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem. Do not go after your. This is fantastic. This fly. How long can a rabbi put up with it? The answer is I don't know either. But why? I mean, do I smell that, man? I mean, there's so much food on there. There's fresh fruit fly. There's sushi. There's other things. Unless the flies are drunk, like I am, and he's just going after. Well, he has very good taste, because this is fantastic, and this is an islet that's really the port. The peatiness. Oh! He brought a friend. Never drink alone, laddie. Good for you. So the 6th is lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. Do not go after your heart. Do not go after your eyes. And we'll see what that means as well. Those are the 6 constant mitzvot. But before we even delve into any of them, inside his intro, he does something very important, which is he asked a very, very simple and basic question. How in the world can a person do 6 constant mitzvot? How is it possible to think about 6 different things at the same time? And even if someone could theoretically master the art of juggling 6 different thoughts in his mind simultaneously, how would he then go on to fulfill all the other mitzvot of the Torah, let alone lead an otherwise productive life? It would seem, therefore, that there must be a different idea behind the 6 constant mitzvot. Constant tamid means always. Always means always. If you take the word lev, if you take the word heart, the lamid and the bet of the word heart, and lamid, if you take it and you just spell out the word lamid mem dalid, and you take the word bet and you spell it out, bet yud taf. If you take the lev part away, you're left with the word tamid, always. When somebody says, I have you in my heart, what they're really saying to you is that you are with me always. You're constantly with me. The concept of tamid is like your heart beating. It's got to be. And that's just all there is to it. But that has to happen all the time. The 6 constant mitzvot have that kind of a passion to it, where they're meant to be all the time, every single second, all the time. And he's asking a very logical, simple question, which is, how in the world are we commanded to do this? Now, you may ask, 1 second, where are we commanded to do this? Where is this said that you're supposed to have it? So, in the beginning of the Mishnah Berurah, all in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, all in the beginning of what we have as our rule book, our guide of rules. So the Chafetz Chaim brings from the Minchat Chinuch. The Minchat Chinuch is a book written early on. Written, I imagine, the 1100s. We don't know exactly who wrote it, but it was accepted as law by everybody. And he brings it actually inside the book. I won't bore you with the details, but he does bring in Hebrew the place where he finds these 6 constant and the obligation given to us why they are constant. So yeah, this is something that is found inside the verses themselves of the Torah. And now the question is how. So he starts off with a wonderful example. Have you ever breathed? Of course. Have you ever used a thing called gravity? Absolutely. This thing called gravity is something fascinating, and it's something that we use without thinking. It's just subconscious. We don't have to do anything to use gravity. It just is. It's something that's there all the time. There's a possibility to make these 6 constant like gravity something that you're using on a constant basis all the time without ever even realizing it. Meaning what it truly is 6 constant attitudes or 6 constant filters that every decision that comes to our life at all times, we can kind of use it always at every single moment, and it'll be a reality like gravity that's in our lives, and that everything that comes through us, we go and we filter it through these 6 constant awarenesses. Let me explain how we do that in our life. So when you started to drive, the first time you're driving a car, the first time in your life, you're driving on the highway. So they don't teach you how to drive on the highway, really. So you got your driver's license, you took your parents' car, you got out onto the highway. You're starting to drive, and you got to make a right turn. You want to get off at the next exit. And there are these other things on the road going from, like, it's just, what is happening? And it's just, you don't know how close the other car is just yet. You're just trying to figure, you're looking over, and you still have your hand at 12 and 2, and just trying, and you're really paying attention to everything the whole time. And let's face it, you're like, no, I'm going to wait until all the cars go. Until finally you feel, and you missed your exit. It's okay, I'd rather live than get off at that exit. And then you get off. In the beginning of driving, you're so cognizant, you're so aware of every last thing you're doing. How long does that last? I mean, honestly, how long does that last? Not that long. Eventually, you get used to the driving, and eventually you become that person, especially if you're like me from New York, you become that person that you're weaving in between all the cars. You're able to work the stick shift, drink a coffee, smoke a cigarette, and text while you're going through all the cars the entire time. And you wonder, how in the world was I ever so afraid to be driving so slowly? It becomes second nature. It becomes a part of your subconscious. It's something that now you've worked into your system. The 6 constant mitzvot is something that initially seemed to be very alien to us. It's something so outside of us. And that initially we have to try to think, how do I go and evaluate them and then put it into my life? Eventually it becomes something of second nature. It becomes something that's tamid. It becomes something that literally it beats with your heart, and it's always. You can live this way. Not only can you, believe it or not, we are meant to live this way. Which, by the way, I'm going to skip a page or two to read his basic warning over here. Because I know that I'm speaking over a lot of people's heads, including my own. So he has one real just page over here aimed towards this. He says, aim high, achieve greatness. Some may feel that the levels of spiritual perfection discussed in the work and beyond are discussed in this work are beyond us. that it is better to present these mitzvot in more of a down-to-earth, practical form. We contend that they should be presented in their pristine, undiluted form for two reasons. He tells us that I'm going to tell this to you in its undiluted, most beautiful way, because number one, you should know what's out there. You should know that there's a reality to it, and that we should try to get up there. We should try to strive for this. We get one life. We get one chance at this thing called life. And if we're always just saying, all right, I'm going to go just a little bit and be satisfied with just that amount, so we're not going to really amount to much of what it is that God gave us, the awesomeness that's lying dormant inside each and every single one of us. There's something incredible about every single Jew. We're going to see this inside us, about every human, to be honest. But let's face it, from the time of Sinai, when God made us the chosen people, he put a piece of God inside you. And if you think that infinite piece of awesomeness is just laying around over there to feed it sushi and not much more, then we're greatly mistaken. No. We can demand of ourselves greatness. Yeah, it's got to take steps. But I want to shoot over everybody's heads, because I want to show you what greatness looks like, so we can look up there and say, wow, I can get there. So yeah, it's possible. It is possible to have these six constants become such a reality in our existence that we can demand of ourselves that every single time we have a decision, and literally this seminar of 6 classes, we're going to chew through all the fat of how this is done, of how we filter the process of decision making when it comes to us of, do I believe in God or not? Well, what is belief? We're going to have to go through that tonight. And how does it affect me? We have to go through that tonight. And then how does that effect go and readily have its emotional and its logical, honestly, just push towards the rest of my existence. We're going to see that tonight as well, Bezat Hashem. Well, maybe not tonight. It's a lot for tonight. It's a tall order for tonight. But incredibly, then we put it through the next filter of, do I believe in other gods? And then the next filter of his oneness. And then the next filter. Now, it's not necessary that everything goes through all 6. There may be a decision that is directed to the third, a decision that's directed to the fourth, a decision. I mean, we're going to see how this works. But incredibly, have you ever gone to a rabbi for advice? I don't know if you've ever gone to, I'm talking about a great rabbinic authority, to like Reb Chaim Kanievsky, to a great rabbinic authority, and you would go and literally just give your problems up and tell them something of like an impossibility. And then with just one word, they can cut through, like with a surgical knife, they can cut through everything and just find the exact nikudas, they say, the exact point. And then they can just turn it just enough to have you see things from a brand new light that you never saw before. Do you know, there's an assembly, he used to be a councilman, assemblyman in New York, Chaim Greenfield. He had a very big problem in New York trying to figure out a certain parking, just a nightmare. New York is terrible, parking everywhere, and there was just a nightmare, and had a fear. And they had the greatest minds, actuaries, all these people trying to do math and everything. He couldn't figure it out. He's a religious Jew. He happened to have been in Israel. He went to Rav Steinman, one of the greatest Gedolim of our times. He went to Rav Steinman, and everybody else asked, for barachot, about health, different things. He said to him, look, this is the parking graph that we have going on, and it's impossible. Can you crack it? He really asked him that. And Rav Steinman looked and he smiled, and just with one line, he went and solved the whole thing. He just explained to him just one quick thing. And he said he was shocked how it was such a simple, but such a clear way to go about it. A person who begins to filter their life through 6 constant mitzvot, it's going to be able to cut all the fat out of life and give us a pristine look at what's important and what's real, and then everything else falls at the wayside. Everything else becomes so unimportant, and literally it's like throwing off so much baggage from our shoulders, because you'll always know what you're doing is correct for yourself, for your children, for who it is you're going to want to marry, for business, for so much in our life. These 6 constants are there. It's not that God's demanding of us, you have to. God is trying to tell us, if you want to find your perfection this time around in life, if you want to find your purpose in reality, if you want to do that, so I'm giving you the blueprints over here, but you have to have them all the time, and you have to be able to run them through all your decisions, run them through these filters, and I'm telling you, you're going to be standing tall on the other side of them. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to teach this Bezat Hashem over the course of this next time. So let's get into it. Step 1. Yeah, he tells us to be able to review a lot. And he starts to go into this idea over here. So to tell you the truth, tonight is just going to be the introduction. Where I don't know if we're going to get into the first one for tonight. And I should say this, we're doing a back-to-back class tonight. At 9 o'clock, I'm giving a class to teenagers. We're going to be having a Q&A. If you're a teenager, stick around. What's up? Teenage boys, correct. This is true. If boys and girls, it may just, I can't compete with girls. I mean, I'm gorgeous, but not that gorgeous, right? So it's not gonna. So it's gonna be a BBQ&A. I am so proud of that. No, I'm gonna say it again because I'm so proud of that. BBQ&A. All right, all day I can say that. So it's gonna be a BBQ&A. That's exactly what it is. So I only have like a certain amount of time. So tonight we're gonna give an introduction, maybe start into the first idea of it, and please everybody, let's sell out on Amazon or the House of David over there or wherever it may be to get the books. Okay. So he starts to go like this. He tells us that the Torah says when Yosef was put as the second in command in Egypt, so all of a sudden, the new king, this is in the beginning of Shemot, the new king, the new Pharaoh is now put into Egypt. Vayakam melech hadash b'Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef, who did not know Yosef. Now, everybody jumps on this. Everybody's grown a beard in the past century has written on this. And they're like, what? How does he not know him? How can you not know him? The guy went and single-handedly changed the entire commerce of the whole country. He went and got everybody to sell themselves as slaves to the last Pharaoh. And now this new Pharaoh owned everybody because of this Yosef. I mean, he really, really changed everything. He's got to know him. He's got... Any president who's coming in knows Warren Buffett. You just know that the guy's just brilliant when it comes to... How do you not know? But the Torah says, Asher lo yadat Yosef. The Torah says he didn't know him. So we have a few different examples, which the rabbis tell us. We're going to go and we're going to give a look at one specific idea. Before we do, I do want to at least give credit where credit is due. This book is written by my Rebbe, Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz. No, not written. I apologize. Based on a series of lectures by Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, and is written by his students, Rav Yehuda Haimowitz, Rav Shai Markowitz, both great Yidden. I know them both, Gavaldige Yidden. And Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, who is now, he became the Rosh Hashiva now of Eshat Torah in Israel. So I am lucky enough that he's my Rebbe. And he brainwashed me. I'm insane thanks to him. And his outlook on Judaism and life is something that is so fulfilling, and it's something that literally its goodness spills over, and you just want to share it with the world. And so really what we're going to be having over here is the original outlook of the Heilige Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz, my Rebbe. Okay. So what does it mean that the king did not know Yosef? Did he suffer from severe amnesia? Rashi explains that he pretended not to know Yosef. But Hashem did not use poetic license in choosing the words in the Torah. It seems that there was something about Pharaoh's behavior that indicated a genuine lack of knowledge of Yosef. Meaning, when God wrote in the Torah, he didn't know Yosef. God kind of means, no, he didn't know him. And not just, I'm going to choose not to know. No. There was something that he was lacking. In describing Pharaoh's behavior in this way, the Torah is imparting an important message. If you can ignore something, you don't really know it, you don't really understand it, and you haven't really internalized it. If Pharaoh was able to ignore all that Yosef had done for his country, it means that he never really knew him. Had he really known Yosef in the years that he had been the second in command? It says viceroy, but is that how you pronounce that word? Viceroy? Viceroy?
Yeah.
I refuse to say that. It sounds way too made up. It sounds like, I don't know, Webster Dictionary had like some other letters left over. He's like, oh my God, who left out this V, this C, this R? Somebody want to put this? He's like, what is that, Viceroy? Like, yeah. Like, okay, put it in. I really feel it was the last of the English language that got in there, and I refuse to be held captive. I'm not going to use it. So, had he really known Yosef in the years that he had been the second in command, Pharaoh could never have done what he did. This failing exists in each of us to some extent or another. We study and witness things, and even talk and write about them without really knowing them. Yeah, he's got a great story over here. He says that there was Rabbi Levenstein, who was a great rabbi who lived in Israel, once got into a taxi cab in Israel. He sat down. He looks like a rabbi, got the beard and the long thing and everything else. He sits in the back of the cab, And as the cabbie drives, so the cab driver says to him, Kavod Rav, ata charedi? What gave it away? He's like, are you religious? He said, yeah. He said, I have a friend of mine who just became religious. He said, oh, really? He's like, yeah. He said, I got to tell you, it's a crazy story how he became religious. He said, tell me. He said, well, we after the army, we went to go explore the world. Israelis have to go to the army. They like to go see the world. So we went to go explore the world, and they were someplace. They were in some godforsaken country. Mountainous regions of Africa. Okay. That's where we all come from, right? So, good. And he said, there we were, and one night, it was him and two of his friends. They were sleeping in a tent, and they woke up because they felt something in the tent, and sure enough, a boa constrictor, a huge, huge snake that wraps itself around people and just squeezes them to death. A boa constrictor came into the tent and wrapped itself around one of the guys, and it was starting to squeeze the life out of him. And these other two guys, so the cab driver was saying that snake wrapped itself around my friend. And we're just hitting it with whatever sticks we had or whatever, and wasn't giving up. Now, they're all not religious, but they know. You say Shema Yisrael, you say Shema Yisrael before the end. So they said, I said to my friend, Udi, Tagid, Shema. This is the end. And so with his last breath, he said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And he just said that. And he said, right when my friend said that, the snake let go of him, slithered out of our tent, and goodbye. He said, my friend, when that happened to him, my friend said, there's a God in this world. And when we came back, he became a Charedi, me'achuz, he became religious, and that's it. So the rabbi sitting in the back of the cab said to him, Umaitcha, and what's with you? And the Israeli cab driver, he made his review. He was like, Kavod Rav lo shamata. He's like, you didn't hear? The snake wrapped itself around my friend, not around me. So therefore not gewalt. I mean, you can see an Israeli cab driver. And laughing, I was thinking, why? He's not getting my story. But literally, this story demonstrates that a person can see something without understanding it and know something without really knowing it. We would hope that most of us would learn a lesson from a friend's brush with death without having to undergo the experience involved. But to some extent, we each have a gap between what we study and see and what we succeed in internalizing. I was once I'm so happy that this is not on Torah anytime. I can say whatever stories I want. Oh, this is good. So there I was in my old yeshiva. And I was interviewing a kid. I had yeshiva for 6 years in Israel. But yeah, in this class, you're going to learn all the dark, dirty, terrible secrets about me. Bezat Hashem, looking forward to sharing them. Great therapy for me. So I was crazy enough to open up a yeshiva in Israel for 6 years. A guy in charge. Really, don't do it. Don't recommend. It's not something to have on your bucket list. You're going to go broke even before you open it, and it's just really difficult. Or do it, and you're going to get Olam Haba and see God's hand in everything. So to tell the truth, actually, it's something amazing, and if you could, I recommend it. It's really incredible. So, no, it really is fun if you're insane. So, there was this kid, an English kid, who almost burnt down his old school in Israel. And so because of that, they threw him out. Okay, and so where do you go? So you go to Rabbi Pinchas school. Meaning, if you're the worst of the worst of the worst, that's who I had in my school, and I loved him every single second. Can I say another story? All right, I just tell you how terrible So I had the Los Angeles room, I had the LA guys, and they were the worst. I love them. And to this day, they are like my children. They're my closest guys. Every Thursday night, or now every other Thursday night, just about, they come to my house. I smoke a lot of meat. Relax, Los Angeles, meat, and we have the guys come over, and we just have like a great farbring, and it's great. But it was a trial by fire. This is one of those stories. I come to the LA room one morning, and there's a big stupid teddy bear. And it's a huge teddy bear inside the LA room. And I look at it, and it's time for shacharit, so I go to wake the guys up. And I say to the guys, what'd you do? Have your girlfriend back in LA stuff it full of weed and then send it to you? Now, I thought that was pretty funny on the spot, but nobody laughed. Everybody just stayed underneath their covers. I'm like, okay, tough room, tough crowd. So I just walked out. They told me afterwards, the conversation in the room was, who told Rabbi Ari that they did that? Because, point in fact, their girlfriend back in America stuffed that thing full of drugs. And she's like, hey, who should I mail it to? Like Rabbi Bensoussan, obviously. And they mailed it to Israel. Thank God it got through all the... can you imagine? They're like, I can see just Israeli cops showing up. Ari Bensoussan. 97 pounds of fresh greens. So they put me through a lot. So it's not shocking. By the way, didn't throw anybody out because of it. Had a good laugh. I killed them. But they are, they're like rabid dogs. Once you show loyalty, though, to it, that pit bull will kill anything but you. So careful. So I know some people now. The first week that we were here, like the guys came to by the way, if anybody messes with your kid, I'm like, what does that mean? What does that entailed? I Baruch Hashem haven't found out just yet. But so I'm getting a new student in my school, burnt out the other school, perfect. Come to Bensoussan school. So he comes, and his father came. His father came from London to come for the interview. His father's name, whatever, doesn't make a difference what his name is. It's a funny name. So he sat down, and he starts to tell me all the different things about his son. And the father says to me, right, thing you need to know about my son, yeah? He loves running. I said, what? What just came out of your mouth? He's like, right, he loves running. I'm like, no, you're going to have to slow that down and write it down on a piece of paper. He said, he loves running. I said, did you say he loves running? That's right, he loves running. He runs marathons, he does. He runs them. 24, he runs them all. If my boy, if you can just let him run and run, I'm telling you, it's going to be perfect. Old school, right? Reason why it burnt down, Didn't let him run. Let my son run, he's going to burn something straight, he's going to burn straight down. So I said, okay, thank you. Anything else? So now when I meet the kid, I always ask the parent to leave. I don't like meeting a kid with the parent. The kid is intimidated, and you just don't want to. Fine, kid comes in, he sits down. So we start to talk. And I said to the kid, so I heard you like running. He's like, I freaking hate running. Your father told me you love running. I said, all right, I love running away from him, yeah? So what does that mean? And so he said to me, he's like, my father doesn't get me, doesn't understand me. He's always pushing me. He told me that he was a much heavier kid when he was younger. Now, the guy was like a pickle. Drugs do that to you. The kid was just literally just, but, initially, and he's like, his father got me to running. He said, but my father would force me to do it. So, yeah, I did marathons, but I always did it for him. But I hate it. So now his father thinks he knows his son. His father, mamash, believed that he knew his son inside out. Asher lo yada et Yosef. He did not know his son for beans. He didn't know anything about him. And, it's really a miserable life when we're going through this, where people really think, and sometimes husbands and wives, that they think that they know each other and they don't. Parents to children, they think that they know each other and they don't. And, I unfortunately had to run yeshiva for a long time of sometimes parents who literally missed the boat when it came to their kids. And when it comes to God, I don't want us to miss the boat. In studying the 6 constant mitzvot, it's important to develop an initial awareness as a basis for the fulfillment of these mitzvot. We have to keep reviewing them, however, to gain a deeper perspective that will enable us to close the gap between logical knowledge of the mitzvot and having that knowledge reflected in our actions on a constant basis. We all may feel like we know Hashem. Yeah, no, I know him. We don't. I'm telling you. Whether you were brought up religious, whether you're brought up in a not religious home, makes no difference. I say that we don't because God's infinite. And so therefore we can't ever fully know Hashem. But even in the specifics, even in there are aspects that we may look at it and say, why is God doing this to me? Or certain aspects that seem horrible. And to tell you the truth, you just don't know him. Because if you did, you would look at it so completely different. Can I tell you a story that's going to really bother and offend everybody? But honestly, this is just a way to... I shouldn't say the story the first time out. Don't judge me on this story, okay? Just don't judge me. I was giving a class once in a part of New York, just say a part of New York, and a girl came over to me afterwards, and she said to me, "My whole family is not religious. The whole extended family is not religious, and we only had one uncle." She said, "I had an uncle. He was the only religious one in the whole group." A very pious individual, and unfortunately, he passed away about a few weeks ago. He was young, he was in the 50s, got sick and he passed away. And the whole family's just all upset at God. The whole family's just cursing out how could he, and he was the only religious one, and they're just all upset, and they keep on talking about it. She said, Rabbi, what can I tell them in order to kind of pacify them? What can I say? So what do you say? If anybody wants to be brave and just give advice, what would you say to that? It's not easy. So, I can tell you, I'm not a smart person, but when you're the idiot that God puts up to talk to other people, God sends you thoughts into your mind. They're never yours. Don't ever take any credit for it because it's just not yours. It's just God literally using you as a puppet. And this just came through, which was, I said to her, to tell you the truth, you can go back there and tell them that at least now they're finally talking to God for maybe the first time in their life. And shame on them that it took the death of their uncle to finally bring that. She was like, what? I said, don't you get it? Your uncle was the religious one. He got to go up to Shamayim, and if you really believe that we don't live in one world, but we live in two, and that this world is just a prep for the next world. There's a famous story, the Frierdiker Lubavitcher Rebbe, when he was back in Russia, the KGB took him out for questioning and put a gun to his head because he wasn't giving them answers. And the Rebbe smiled and he said to them, for you, that may be a threat. You see, for you, that you live in one world and you have many gods, that's a threat. For me, I have one God and I believe in two worlds. For me, that's a hope. I'm ready. Go ahead and pull the trigger. Your uncle, if he was really pious, trust me, God gave him the reason, he gave him the answer. Don't feel bad for him. Don't cry for him. But give a look. Your family's finally talking to God. Let them be upset at God. But at least they're having a conversation. At least they're talking to him. You should capitalize on that. And let it hurt. Let it burn. But at least talk and find out. Find out, capitalize on this moment where they want to understand God. And say, you want to understand God? So then go to the people who have been studying him for forever and ask those tough questions because, yes, we have all the answers. We're like Radio Shack. You have questions, we have answers. It's just the way that it goes. That's who we are. And so while it's bothering them, burning them, give them my email, tell them to just chock full of it, throw them all at me. I will knock them all down one after the other. You see, when you begin a relationship with Hashem, there's a purpose and there's a reason behind everything that we have. How do we find out this purpose? How do we figure out these reasons? When we start to go through these 6 constants, they start to begin to shed light on some of the most difficult and some of the most, honestly, agonizing parts that is life itself. Finishing off for tonight. Back a long time ago, he tells us, there was basically the challenge of the world were these intellectual challenges. You had the Enlightenment movement, where so many Jews of Europe lost their religion because they became enlightened with so many different other ideas of how to go about things in the world. Today we don't have that. What is our challenge of today? What is the Yetzer Hara? What is the evil inclination? What is our battle that we have to go and gear up against? Instead of causing people to abandon Judaism in favor of some intellectual movement or another, as Yetzer Hara did in previous generations, today the evil inclination has adopted a different tactic. He allows us to retain our outwardly religious appearance while distracting us from Hashem and his Torah in the most deceptive ways. Instead of appealing to our intellect, he appeals to our emotions, attempting to fill our time with diversions that will leave us with no time to focus on our true purpose in this world. The Yetzer Hara succeeds when he turns our service of Hashem into rote and lulls us into going through the motions of Judaism mechanically with little feeling for what we're doing. This going through the motions is very unsatisfying. It leaves us feeling empty. Observance of Torah and mitzvot in a way that lacks feeling and depth becomes frustrating to us instead of providing us with joy as it's meant to do. When that happens, we start looking for shortcuts in our service of God. Now, more than ever, we must find a way to infuse our service of Hashem with emotion and feeling, to live for Torah and mitzvot, not just do them. Our challenge, all of us, I hear this all the time, is that people just don't feel anymore. We just don't feel. Just today, just this morning, we heard on the news this terrible, terrible story that there was another father who drowned. There's another father of 8 children, that he took his children out on a boat in Muncie, New York, and he passed away. He went to go in, his children, whatever the story was, but he passed away. And the news is already old, because that's 8 o'clock this morning. And no matter what, we've all been able to move on from so many tragic stories. We're all numb. We're so numb. And we're missing out. If we're desensitized to everything that is life, and we're so desensitized, and it's not our fault, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, I'm 39 years old. Those of us who are a little bit older, if you're in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, how many people got cancer when we were younger? That you heard a story, a young kid. Very far and few in between that they had a sickness. And like everybody was just shocked. Something that blew our minds. If somebody couldn't make money, whatever it was something that these stories were very far and few. And therefore we rallied and we got together and we felt like it was something that we felt. Nowadays, unfortunately, the world has become so much smaller, and tragedy has just become the flavor of the moment. That every single second it's something else, that just for the sake of survival, we had to desensitize ourselves to everything that is life. And by that desensitization, we don't feel anything. Not shacharit, not mincha, not arvit. We can't feel tefillin, we can't feel God. And the horrible part is that we're going through the motions either way. We are. I think most people in this room are keeping Shabbat. Most people in this room, men are putting on tefillin, women are lighting the candles when it comes to Shabbat. We're going through these things and we're not tasting it. It's like the curse of the snake, that we get to taste food, but it's sand. We get to taste Shabbat, but it's really ineffective. We get to put on tefillin, and it just feels like this thing that's going to leave a mark on our head, and that's all, and that's terrible. But the beauty of this is that there's a way out. There's a way to connect. There really is. Being constantly with Hashem. I'm telling you, this will build a relationship with God. If anybody here knows me, has heard my speeches, it's only ever chock-filled of speaking with Hashem at every moment. It's just a constant of recognition, of connection. And now more than ever, this is something that we have to put into ourselves. We have to have for yourself, for your spouses, for your children. You have to live this way, because the world itself is going in complete opposite way, where nothing is sacred, where everything can be made fun of, where nothing has any kind of value. And we have to build value. These 6 constant. This is going to be a therapy that helps build value within all of our lives in every single moment of it. So, Bezrat Hashem, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be sending out the different WhatsApps or what have you. We're going to be starting to talk about the first of the constants. So this was the intro for tonight. The first of the constants, we're going to be talking about Emunah B'Hashem. We're going to be talking about the belief in God. We're going to be covering concepts like, what is the mitzvah of belief? Is it a mitzvah? By the way, it's an argument. Is there a mitzvah to believe in God? There's a very big argument. The Rambam says, and this we discussed in a class a few weeks ago, but we're going to get into this a lot more, that the Rambam feels it's not just believing in God, but it's knowing God. How can you possibly know God? There are different ways to go about knowing God. We're going to talk about 3 different ideas and how to go about that. And after we're enriched with those 3 different ideas, we're going to start to demand of, really, is it just belief or is it a step more? And it's so much more. If anybody thinks it's just belief, you're an idiot. There's so much more to it. It's this demanding of responsibility like you've never been literally charged with before. And when you have that, at the end of the next one, you're going to walk away with your first tool inside the tool chest of breaking down your numbness, building sensitivity, and being honestly able to begin a life of truly living with Hashem. I can't wait. I'm so excited to learn with everybody. Bezrat Hashem, we'll see you in a few weeks. Have a great night. 1 second, we got an announcement.
Okay, if anyone is not on the Chazak of the Valley WhatsApp group and you want to be added so that you know when the classes are taking place, please sign in, and that way I can add you and keep it going.
Perfect. And we'll also be looking for people to just have it in their homes.
You can always message. My phone number will be at the Chazak of the Valley as an admin administrator. You can always message me and interested in hosting and working out with my art.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, we got like a minute or two questions or anything. Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a question. You said to have a relationship with God, okay? And when you talk to God, how do you feel God's answer? How do you see Him communicating with you?
Beautiful. What a great question. I'll just make sure everybody heard the question. The question was, you're talking about a relationship with God, Rabbi, and I've spoken to God a lot, and a relationship takes two, right? You know, and just how do you hear Him answer you? 100%. So we're going to talk about this a lot more. I mean, literally a lot more. And we're going to see that what tefillah, what prayer is about, is that it's not something that God needs, because God, by definition, is infinite. So God's not lacking anything, because He's not lacking anything, and so therefore, it's not for Him. The whole concept of tefillah is to start to break down the barriers that we've set with ourselves to be able to relate to Hashem a lot more, way. And as we break down these barriers and build the sensitivity more and more and more, you become cognizant of everything. Meaning, it's not just the answer, it's something so much bigger. Let me explain. When you have this relationship, so you daven to Hashem, but the way we daven to Hashem is in a very specific fashion of, Hashem, I know that you not only run everything, but that you have this whole master plan that I can't see. So, Hashem, I need to make money, let's just say. And if it fits into the lifestyle that you have planned for me, for my purpose, for why you put me over here, and that I'm supposed to have a nice amount of income come in, so then great. But if not, Hashem, then I really don't want to have it. So then it's not meaning, Hashem, I want to have my purpose a lot more, and please let me see it, and please let me connect to it. When you start to talk to Hashem this way all the time, you're going to start to see things pop up literally at every single second, because you're going to now start to talk about the fact that, Hashem, if you're not giving me this, it's because you must be demanding a certain greatness lying dormant inside me that I don't know. So I'm going to delve into myself. I'm going to find within myself. And I'm going to go and offer in myself something that I thought was too difficult, but it's been sitting on my mind, and now I want to explore that, and I want to give that to you. And Hashem, so I'm going to try to give you X, and please, the Y that I'm asking for, let's see, can that happen? Hashem, please let me see that can happen. I'm not saying to try this just yet. I am saying that when you start to go through this more, you start to get certain clarity that was never clear before. That clarity is going to make it that what I just said to you now isn't just a rabbi answer, it's actually an awesome way to live. Because I literally live like that. And I don't have the time now to say the latest story. I told you guys an insurance story last time, right? Yeah, by your house. Where
You have to share it.
no, it was not this show. We're going to share with the crowd. Just the teenager's time for the next class started a minute ago. I want to, but I'm just saying, to answer your question now, step one is going to be, I want to give certain clarifying tools to build the relationship. And then step two is, once we have those clarifying tools, you're going to see, how does God speak to me? Good. So for the time being, pushing it off a little bit, but Bezrat Hashem, I do hope to get there. Good. Okay, everybody. I would love to do more questions. So just one thing I'm begging you guys. I'm going to try. I live up in the city. I'm going to try my hardest to be here. Like if let's say it's called for 8:00, like it was at 8:00, so that we can have a full amount of time. These are ideas that are so difficult to get around and to be clear that we're going to need all the time we have. Please, let's try to show up on time. Bezrat Hashem for the next class round. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out.